Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the car. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I got my ADHD diagnosis as an adult in the UK. I already tried to film this video once. Forgetfulness, UK process, but I'm also going to be, why am I out of breath? And diagnose ADHD. I'm passionate about this, okay? I think do you get is it like having more than, you need to have more than 5 out of 9 symptoms. You need to have more than 5. So you need to have more than 5. Yeah, I was being in therapy. So I'm trying again today. Feel a bit more chilled out today. I got my diagnosis privately, but I do know how it works on the NHS because I couldn't afford to keep seeing the guy, so I just wanted to get diagnosed so I could get my medication. And then when it was time to get my medication, they were like, oh, you have to get diagnosed again. We don't accept private diagnoses. So I was like, oh my god. So I'm going to tell you guys how I got diagnosed privately and also how the NHS process works. And I'm going to put timestamps in the thingy below if you just want to skip to that particular part. I was 21 when I realised I have ADHD, and I realised that because I watched a TED talk. I think her name is Jess from How to ADHD. Yeah, I watched her TED talk and I was just like, this is me. Like, I'd never felt more like this is me in my life, other than when I watched that video. So I was like, oh my god, I have this thing and I never knew about it. Like, I've heard the word ADHD like once or twice before. I know it's like a thing, but I don't even, if someone asked me back then, like, what do you think ADHD is, I would have just been like, I don't know, someone who's really hyper. But obviously that's not what all that ADHD is. So basically, yeah, I was 21 and I was about to go to university. What led me to my ADHD diagnosis is a very painful and vicious cycle. Well, what led me to it was that video, because if I hadn't found that video, then I would never have known, unless something else popped up with ADHD. But I guess it was just the universe or just coincidence and scrolling on Facebook. So yeah, I've been in this very vicious cycle of just never being able to get myself on track. Like, I'd try to get myself on track and do things, get things done and organize myself, and I'd do it like 2 or 3 days. Like, sometimes magically I'll like do it for nearly a week. Like, I'll get my shit together, I'll wake up, eat breakfast, do things like a normal person, and I'd be like, wow, I'm able to live like a normal person. But then things would always go to shit and I'd get really unorganized, I'd get depressed, and just everything would go to shit. I was never able to hold down a job. Like, I'd quit so many jobs because I thought it was because of anxiety, and it was, but you know, a lot of this anxiety I know now was stemming from ADHD and the fact that I just felt like I couldn't manage life. I had a big breakdown in the summer because of some medication I was put on, because of some antidepressants that I did not want to be put on, but still the doctor put me on them. And so yeah, I was about to start uni. So I had quit uni because of my mental health in second year, at the beginning of second year, and I'd had a year out, and then I'm just going to do this. I had a year out and I decided to, okay, I'll apply for this uni, like, why not? Because, well, the true reason is because I wanted to dance, but mainly I just wanted to get out of my house. If my house was a good place to be, then I probably would not have gone to uni, but I just went because I thought student finance, get to live somewhere else, great. After finding out about the ADHD, it was leading up for me to start my new uni, and I just knew I couldn't do this anymore. Like, I'd finally found the reason why you know, some people have naturally bad pickup in dance. I'm a dancer, by the way, and pickup is like how quickly you pick up the dance. So some people have naturally, you know, worse pickup than others, and I do. But then adding ADHD on top, it was so impossible for me to learn dances, and I did theatres. Impossible for me to learn dances, monologues. I would cry every time I got up to do a monologue because I could never memorize them. And I'm sure it is harder for some people, as I said, but then ADHD on top of that is really fucking hard. It hurts so much when you know you're capable of doing something, but you're not doing it because you can't remember it. Because I'm that person that's always been called inconsistent. Like, oh, you're so inconsistent. Like, how come yesterday you couldn't do anything, and now today you're amazing? Maybe because I went home and practiced. Maybe because I can't retain things right there and then. And it's really annoying if you want to have a career as a dancer, because you need to be able to pick up choreography in a audition room. So yeah, that's really frustrating. So yeah, basically I was doing therapy at the time, and I mentioned to my therapist, I think I have ADHD, after seeing that video. And she said, if you had ADHD, it actually means that you'd have a brain problem. Like, people with ADHD, their brain is actually different. She was like, it wouldn't make a difference if you had ADHD. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Miss Janet. I've never seen you, but if you're watching this video, you are not a good therapist, okay? You are not a good therapist. Okay, I kept repeating to her that I was just getting frustrated because I couldn't even keep up with the tasks in therapy, and my things, you know, she'd make me write down like my thoughts and whatever. I was doing CBT, and one of my main thoughts, worries, constant worries, was that I can't get everything done in the day and there isn't enough time. And this is not a, you know, adult life, I'm so busy, because I wasn't so busy. Like, I wasn't very busy at all. I just could not fucking get myself on track and live like a normal person. Sadly, she did not see that as a sign. Luckily, I didn't let that discourage me. Like, some people be like, oh, maybe I don't have ADHD, but I knew she didn't have a clue about what she was talking about. So I then went to my GP and I said to him, I think I have ADHD. My therapist is not cooperating. Could you please send me for an assessment? And he did a few like tests or whatever on me. He made me fill in some forms and blah blah, and he was like, you're too depressed to have an ADHD assessment, you should take this medication. And I was like, no, my depression is being caused by the ADHD, okay? I know I don't have to be a scientist to know that I've figured that out, right? Because I've tried many medications for depression before. And he was like, no, just take this. And he gave me Prozac, and that really messed me up and led to my big breakdown. So thanks for not listening to me. Thank you, NHS. Post big breakdown, shaving all my hair off, smashing up everything, all my favorite belongings, my mother decided to kindly pay for me for a private diagnosis. And you know, not that she had the money to, but she did, because it was kind of urgent, and I didn't want another cycle of try my hardest and fucking just have to drop out again. Because actually it would have been the third time, and it has been the third time that I've dropped out, because I have dropped out because of my mental health. My mother found this ADHD clinic. It's called the ADHD clinic. It's in London, and she found a website, and basically it was like Corona time back then. It was summer 2020, yeah. And I was 21, because I'm 22 now. And so she just contacted those people. Basically, this is how it went. They sent some emails with like loads of forms to fill in. There were a couple of forms for me, and then there were like some forms for my family members to fill in. So like, you have to get people that have known you since you were little to fill some forms in. I'm sure like maybe not every ADHD assessment does this, and there are ways around that if you don't have like people around you that have known you since you were little, because that can happen. I guess the point in doing those forms is to see like if their answers match up with yours, or if they like picked out something that you haven't, or if, you know, all the answers match up to what you say when you have your initial assessment. And I guess also to see childhood signs of ADHD. Yeah, so after doing those forms, they said everything's cool, let's see you for an assessment. Then I went in for the assessment. The assessment itself was very long. He was asking me all sorts of questions, of course, related to ADHD, related to pretty much all the questions I had answered. I don't know if he was also analysing my body language, but I probably did look very frustrated because it was so long. They were all questions related to distractibility, focus, hyperactivity, to actually, you know, see how I feel. Also questions about my experience growing up. And then like towards the end, he asked, like, he obviously thought to himself, yeah, this girl definitely has ADHD. So towards the end, he asked me like if I had ever tried like stimulants, like different drugs, and how they affected me, like caffeine, if I'd ever tried cocaine. He said he was asking that to see like how the stimulant affected me, because obviously medication for ADHD is stimulant medication, and he was also asking those because to see if I'd had like addiction problems, and he'll ask like about alcohol use and whatever, because that's quite common in people with ADHD to like self-medicate. And then towards the end of my assessment, we talked a little bit about medication, and he said we'll have a follow-up for medication. But yeah, he basically said at the end of that assessment, you have ADHD. So before you start your medication, you have to do a few checks to make sure that you're okay. You have to check your weight, your blood pressure, and you usually have to do an ECG and blood test. I couldn't do an ECG and blood test because it was corona time, and that wasn't like possible at the time. But I did like do my blood pressure at home, monitor it, and for a few days, like for 3 days in a row, and then I had to send it to them, and also sent them like my weight and height. I can't really remember. Anyways, so now after I sent that, I had the an email with the ADHD diagnosis, and then another email asking when do you want to follow up for the medication. So then after that, I had a follow-up for medication, and I got prescribed Elvance. It was really good, the service was really good. 5-star rating I give you. The ADHD clinic, they told me like exactly the differences between each medication, and we came to the decision like together based on everything and the side effects as well. So I picked the one with least side effects, which was Elvance. Elvance was pretty great. Okay, and so how does the NHS get involved? Well, basically, this is my little interlude between private and NHS. So I couldn't carry on with the private service because it was really expensive. So I asked the doctor, is it possible to switch over to the NHS? And he said, yeah, I think so, but you'll have to get onto the like mental health services so they can like titrate the medication. And this is where it gets tricky. So they gave me a prescription, and the doctor said like I can't prescribe this for long, like I can prescribe it but I can't like change the dose. So the doctor was able to prescribe that for me, and they said they'll do it like for a few months, but in the end they ended up doing it for a longer time because the NHS referral, it has just been taking ages to come through, and you can see by my face it's not here right now. I mean, if it was, I probably wouldn't have quit uni. So yeah, let's talk about the NHS process. The diagnosis process is probably the same. Like, I'm not going to talk about the test, but what you have to do if you want an NHS diagnosis, if you're under 18 years old, you should research like ADHD services on the NHS nearby, and that will literally get you what you need. So I think CAMS, I'm not sure, but I think CAMS is only for Hertfordshire. I don't know if I'm right, but basically if you live in Hertfordshire, you can go through CAMS if you're under 18, and they have a service that will screen you for ADHD. I'm not sure how long that takes. I think it's quite a long time. I really would suggest, before you go into the doctor, if you know what you're going to talk about and you know exactly what problems are going on in your life and you know exactly what you want to say, good. If not, I suggest writing a list. Write a list of all your ADHD symptoms, write a list of how it's affecting your life. So yeah, and then they will hopefully refer you to the ADHD services in your area. Now, I just want to say that when I moved to Manchester, the service has taken over a year. So it's been over a year. I'm back here in Hertfordshire because obviously I quit uni because everything was getting too much, and I was not on top of anything. I really needed my medication changed. That's initially why I switched. Well, at first I wanted it titrated, and then the medication made my OCD like 100 times worse, and so I had to get treated for OCD, and then realised I can't take Elvans anymore. I miss you, Elvans, but also I don't. It helped me with so much stuff, but they also killed me inside. Basically, to get an ADHD test diagnosis, you just go to your GP. And if not, then you just go through an online service. You write in like NHS, local service. The waiting lists like differ based on where you are, but they do tend to be long. Like, you're probably not going to get seen, if you're in the UK, you're probably not going to get seen in like 4 weeks. Nah. But if you live somewhere like Manchester, you're probably not going to get seen in years. Sorry to put a downer on it. Sorry to break it to you. But if you can afford a private diagnosis, I would say get a private diagnosis. My mum like couldn't afford a private diagnosis, but it was urgent. So yeah, and mental health is urgent, and ADHD is a serious condition that's not taken seriously. I think partly because people just think of ADHD like how it affects other people, like, oh, that person's distracted and hyperactive, they're annoying to me. It's even called attention hyperactivity deficit, whatever the name is. Yeah, I think the name for it is wrong. The name should be changed to executive functioning disorder, because it is an executive functioning disorder, and it doesn't just affect memory and like attention and hyperactivity. Like, some people might present more hyper, some people might present more inattention, but ADHD like is a problem of the brain's executive functioning system. So yeah, the name doesn't really help to, it doesn't really sound serious, but it is, and it's debilitating. Waiting so long, I mean, first of all, a person with ADHD has problems with waiting. If you have ADHD, I think you know what I mean, like waiting in line, waiting for anything, and especially not being the thing that was most painful for me and is the most is that they will not tell me when I'm going to be seen. And I've been calling for a fucking year, more than a year, saying when will I be seen, and every time I hear soon. Anyways, I'm not going to go into that because it's literally so bad. So I'm going to read you guys the criteria from my assessment now. Obviously, like, there's so many more questions in the assessment, but these are like the prime things they're looking for. So the criteria from the DSM-5 is what they assess you with. So I have 6 main points on here. And the first point is that you have to have more than 5 out of 9 symptoms of attention deficit and or hyperactivity / impulsivity in both childhood and adulthood. That's quite a mouthful. So basically, yeah, you just need to have more than 5 out of 9 symptoms of ADHD, either the hyperactive side or the inattentive side, to be diagnosed, and that has to be there. That has to have been there in childhood and has to be there in adulthood, because ADHD is not like something you develop, it's something you're born with. So if you're suddenly starting to be like hyper or like starting to have difficulty like focusing, then you probably don't have ADHD, because it is something that's always been there. So if you're suddenly having symptoms, then that might be something else. Number 2, it says having a lifelong pattern of symptoms confirmed by family. So that was when my mum filled in the forms, so you know, just saying like it's confirmed by my family, whatever. Number 3, symptoms and impairment are expressed in at least 2 domains of functioning in childhood, confirmed. And then number 4, symptoms and impairment are expressed in at least 2 domains of functioning in adulthood. So what it means by that is your symptoms have to be like, it can't just be like you're having these problems at home and then when you're out you're fine. It has to affect you like either, you know, at least in 2 areas, at home and at school, or at work and at school. Because if it's just in one place, then that shows that maybe there's like a bad environment somewhere. So like if you have a bad environment at home and you're acting out because of that, then that's different from ADHD. So they just want to like differ those 2. And ADHD does cause problems in workplaces and at school. So yeah, can cause problems. Number 5, the symptoms cannot be better explained by the presence of any other psychiatric disorder, confirmed. Number 6, clear interference in level of functioning and well-being in more than 1 domain, confirmed. That makes sense. We have here, the condition is recognised under the Equalities Act of 2010, Disability Discrimination Act. So ADHD is a disability. That's not taken seriously. So it tells you like adjustments that are helpful in school. It tells you like what you're eligible for. So you're eligible for disabled students allowance. You're also eligible for extra time in exams in school or university. Adjustments found helpful by individuals with ADHD include a calm and quiet environment, noise cancelling headphones, ability to work remotely, digital dictation, creating adequate clutter-free space, granting extra time for exams and coursework, support from institution, support learning and performance patiently with frequent visual reminders. That is lovely, and I would love if everyone actually took it that seriously. How many times have I said this in this video? Not enough times, because it's not taken seriously. That was my experience of getting an ADHD diagnosis. So I hope you found this video helpful in some way. And yeah, if you're looking to get an ADHD diagnosis and you're an adult, I would highly recommend, if you have the money for it, to go private, unless you first check with your GP and they let you know like how long the waiting list is. If they tell you like a year and you're okay with that, I mean, okay. But trust me, if they tell you like a year or like 8 months, it's probably gonna be like a year or more than that. So yeah, and if you're one of those people like waiting on the waiting list, I am so sorry and I feel your pain. That was the way I got my ADHD diagnosis. I hope this video helped. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video because it really helps me in the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos on ADHD. I also make videos about OCD, and follow my TikTok or Instagram if you're on those platforms. And yeah, see you in my next video. Bye.